Hello, my name is Daniel Leonardo. In this presentation, my partner and I will be talking about chapter 24, the final chapter of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This part of the novel closes Victor Frankenstein's long journey of ambition, guilt, and revenge. It shows how his desire to control life leads not only to tragedy but also to the reflection about human limits. Through this chapter, we will see how Mary Shelley combines emotion, philosophy, and nature to create one of the most powerful endings in classical literature. After losing everyone he loved, Victor Frankenstein becomes consumed by a single purpose: revenge. His grief turns into fury, and only his desire to destroy the monster gives him the will to live. He leaves Geneva forever, taking with him jewels and the money that once belonged to his mother. Before departing, he visits the cemetery where William, Elizabeth, and his father are buried. The night is silent and dark, surrounded by the tombs. Victor kneels and makes a solemn vow to pursue the creature until one of them dies. As he speaks his oath, a mocking laugh breaks the stillness, echoing through the graveyard. Under the pale moonlight, Victor sees the terrifying shadow of his creation fleeing into the distance. From that instant, revenge becomes his destiny. He rises from the graveside transformed, no longer a grieving man, but a relentless hunter driven by wrath and despair. A man who lives only to destroy the pain that destroyed him. Victor begins his long and desperate pursuit across Europe. He follows the Rhone River, crosses the Mediterranean, and reaches the Black Sea, where he briefly spots the creature born in a ship. Yet the monster always evades him, leaving cruel reminders of his presence. Words carved into trees, footprints in the snow, or even food left behind to keep Victor alive. The chase turns into a torment that blurs the line between life and death. In these endless travels, Victor endures cold, hunger, and exhaustion. Sometimes he dreams of his lost family, his father's kindness, and Clerval's slaughter, Elizabeth's voice, and awakening tears. His dreams are only his refuge, but also his punishment. Every dawn renews his strength to chase the creature farther, and his vengeance becomes his only reason to exist, consuming all the remains of his humanity. Victor's journey leads him north into the frozen wilderness of the Arctic. He builds a sled and drives his stock across vast fields of ice and snow, always following the creature's faint tracks. In a remote coastal village, he hears rumors of a gigantic man who terrified the inhabitants and stole supplies before venturing onto the frozen sea. Despite his weakness, Victor prepares to follow, building a sturdy sled designed for the polar terrain. Weeks later, he finally spots a dark figure in the distance, the monster. But before Victor can reach him, the ice cracks beneath him, separating him from the creature and leaving him adrift on a floating sheet of ice. He spends days near death, surrounded by nothing but wind and silence, until he is rescued by an expedition ship commanded by Robert Walton.
Walton, through letters to his sister Margaret Saville, describes how he rescued the half-dead stranger and cared for him. While recovering, Victor notices Walton writing letters, and intrigue begins to speak. He sees in Walton the same ambition that once ruled his own heart, and warns him that such ambition leads only to misery. Moved by this shared understanding, Victor decides to recount his entire life, his youth, his scientific obsession, and the tragic consequences of defying nature. Walton records everything in his letters, realizing that this dying man's story is both extraordinary and tragic. Meanwhile, Their ship becomes trapped in the ice, and the fearful sailors demand to return home. Weak but determined, Victor delivers a passionate speech about courage and perseverance. His words inspire the men greatly, but when the ice begins to break, their fear wins. Walton is forced to agree to turn back, even as Victor's strength fades with the melting ice. When the ice finally opens, it is too late for Victor. His body gives way to illness and exhaustion. He tells Walton that his greatest sin was not his ambition, but his failure to take responsibility for what he created. He begs Walton to destroy the monster if he ever encounters him, so that no one else will suffer as he did. His final advice is clear: to avoid the temptation of glory and the arrogance of playing God. Moments later, Victor Frankenstein dies peacefully. His suffering at last ended. Walton, deeply moved, records every word in his letters, feeling as if he has witnessed both genius and ruin embodied in one man. The ship's crew mourns in silence as Victor's body lies still among the frozen waves, a tragic reminder of how ambition, once pure, can destroy its creator. The same night, Walton hears strange sounds from the cabin where Victor's body rests. When he enters, he sees a gigantic figure crying over the corpse, the creator. His disfigured face is twisted in grief as he confesses his crimes and his misery. He tells Walton that he never wished to be evil, but rejection and loneliness turned him into a monster. Now that Victor is dead, he says, his life has no meaning. Walton listens in silence as the creator declares his final decision. He will travel to the farthest end of the Arctic, build a funeral pyre, and burn himself to ashes. Then, under the dim light of the northern sky, he leaves the ship and disappears across the frozen sea. The waves close behind him, and his figure fades into the mist, leaving only the haunting silence of two lives destroyed by pride and revenge. Mary Shelley's purpose in this chapter is to show the consequences of ambition without responsibility. Victor's fall represents the danger of trying to play God, while the creator's sorrow reveals that even those who do wrong still suffer from pain and rejection. Both creator and creation are victims of isolation and obsession. Through their tragic end, Shelley reminds us that knowledge without empathy and power without morality led to destruction. Frankenstein ends as both a warning and a timeless question. Is being human only about having knowledge and power, or it is truly about feeling, caring, and taking responsibility for others? In other words, Mary Shelley leaves us a moral and emotional lesson: to create without love or to seek knowledge without empathy turns us into monsters, not real human beings.